get code for you or anything, just let me know whatever.
Shalom, Akim.
Yep.
Like to give all honor, praise, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem,
Yahweh
Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Kakadash. And basically, prophecy is speaking and has been speaking. And we're just going to go right into it. We're going to start off here with Jeremiah 28:8. It says, the prophets that have been before me and before thee of old prophesied both against many countries and against great kingdoms of war and of evil and of pestilence. And that's what's happening right now in this modern day society with America. See, the modern world, when you look at it, is really not too much different than the ancient world.
Yeah,
because technically the same people come back and do the same things that they did in the past all over again. Let me give you point one. During the time, if we go to the time of the Roman Empire, we go back to 70 AD, the Jews were being persecuted and the Romans' foot was on our neck with the taxation. They were taxing the shit out of us. And that's the thing that caused the war, which the war started in 66. It was from 66 to about 72 AD. Roughly 66 to 70 AD. 70 AD was the culmination of them burning down the temple and running us out of Jerusalem. But prior to that point, the taxation, they was taxing the shit out of us. They had their foots on our necks.
Oh, yeah.
And they were taxing the hell out of us. I.e., case in point, what's happening right now. The taxation. It's the same thing all over again. This is the recreation of the Roman Empire whose deadly wound was healed. The Roman Empire went down during the Middle Ages, or before the beginning of the Middle Ages. When you look up the Dark Ages is considered from the 5th century AD until about the 15th century AD. That's known as the Dark Ages. You go look it up. Just type it in Google. So they say roughly from that time to that time, they call that the Middle Ages. But prior to the 5th century AD, we already took the Roman Empire down. Jake already got up in there and took over different aspects in the Roman Empire.
Yeah.
Prior to Constantine the Great.
Yeah.
Prior to Severus Septimius in 192 AD. Jake was in control of things going on, certain things going on in the Roman Empire. So prior to 193 AD, which is or let me say 192 AD, on that night of 192 AD, when Commodus was killed and then the throne was up for grabs, Quintus, who was the head of the Praetorian, and he was a Jake from North Africa. Quintus was a Negro from North Africa. Persinius Niger was a Negro from North Africa. Persinius Niger was a commander of Roman legions. Severus Septimius was a Negro from North Africa who was a commander of Roman legions. Quintus and the Praetorian, Quintus was the head of what today you would call it the Secret Service.
Yeah.
Back then it was called the Praetorian. Basically, after he allowed one of the Roman gladiators to come in and snap Commodus's neck while Commodus was sleeping, right? It was on New Year's Eve, 192 AD, just right before 193 AD came in. Snapped his neck in his sleep, and now then you have Pertinax and Didius Julianus, and Quintus and the Praetorian was like, look, you pay us a certain amount of denarii, we'll back you to be Roman emperor. So, I always get the order mixed up, but it was either Pertinax and Didius Julianus. They was basically both emperor at the same time, damn near. One didn't pay the Praetorian, they whacked him. Then the next one, he got the same deal. You pay us a certain amount of denarii, we'll back you. He didn't fess up that denarii, they whacked him. Meanwhile, the senators proclaimed Albinus, who was a senator in Rome, they proclaimed him emperor. The legions under Persinius Niger proclaimed him emperor. The legions under Severus Septimius proclaimed him emperor. Septimius killed Persinius Niger and whacked him. And then he stepped to Albinus, and then Albinus backed off. Was like, you got it.
And see, and the thing is, too, you mentioned going into the origin of a lot of these, and Esau knows these things.
Yep.
Right? That's why now you see him make a gladiator with Denzel Washington and everything, right? But now, again, there was the diasporas. All right? Yahushua spoke on it and said, don't return back to Jerusalem because why? A lot of Jakes fled to northern Africa in different parts for the persecution that happened during the time of Masada.
Yep.
So and it's not like in this time where we're so far gone from our heritage, even though that they fled into Africa, they knew that they were Israelites.
They still knew he was
They knew
Israelites.
that they were supposed to be at Jerusalem, right?
3 times a year.
3 times a year for the Passover and everything. So they were coming back, and the thing is, that was the Most High wounding the Roman Empire. So
That's
now
right.
this was all these jakes, you know, and Esau knows this too, you know, because it was, and you got to think of this too, because a lot of times people think 193. No, first of all, that was a gradual buildup going
right.
to that. You got different seasons, and just like today, you'd be surprised at the amount of Negroes, so-called Negroes, which aren't Israelites, that are high in this man's society and this military.
Oh, that's right.
You know,
And I'll give you an example. Years ago, over 10 years ago, I used to drive a box truck. So I had to do a delivery at the Department of, I believe it was the Department of Finance. So in DC. So I left Connecticut with skids, about 4 or 5 skids of printed material to bring to them. So then when I get there and I back into the dock, I couldn't back into the dock because once I got there, everything was closed off. They hit a button and then a door opened and these metal things went down. And before they let me back into the dock, they came out with the bomb sniffing dogs. They came out, they had me open the back of the truck and put this contraption in the back of the truck, and it scanned the truck for a bomb. Then they had me close the truck back up. They was with that glass mirror looking under the truck, searching.
right?
They had the dogs sniff the truck, go inside and sniff the cab too. Then they said, okay, you can back in. And the people who were doing all this was all Negroes, dressed up in black tactical gear with motherfucking M16 rifles, armed with M16 rifles. Everybody that was there. So I back into the dock. Then I get out the truck and go to the metal detector. I had to give them my license. Of course, they looked up my license before I got there, but then they still did another check even when I got there.
Right.
And the person who was at the desk when I went through the metal detector was a nigger woman, a black woman. She was the receptionist at the desk at the dock. So she was, doing what I went through, everything. Then I opened the door. They took the material off. They let me use the bathroom. Then I got in the truck and left. They signed my paperwork. And then I got in the truck and left. And it was all, I ain't seen not one white person. It was all Negroes that was there at the Department of Finance when I went. It was Department of Treasury. I keep saying Department of Finance, the Department of Treasury down in D.C.
Well, you got. I know where you was at. And you got to understand about Esau, right? Going back to Habakkuk, the 2nd chapter, Esau has no loyalty. They'll create that. So just like they created the whole theory of race or the critical race theory, and they create racism. But guess what? These devils hate even their own kind. Like there's levels amongst these Edomites, So, and they know that Jake, and they know who we are.
Yep.
So that's why they have Jakes in these positions over a lot of Edomites. And that's why there's tensions happening even still to this day. Because why? That spirit of Esau is coming back. Of course, there's going to be riots and race wars and things of that nature. But and the thing is, it goes back into the history too, because in Ecclesiastes, what's that, 1 and 9?
Mm-hmm.
Thing that have been is that which shall be.
So there's nothing new under the sun.
There's nothing new under the sun. All right. I believe it was I think it might have, I can't remember if it was Apostle Tahar's show or Apostle Gabar's show earlier. A brother put it in the comment, and he was right. He said Rome had the same problems because right now the United States Army, they're going through all kind of hell. The soldiers are trying to commit suicide. They're having all kind of arguments, fights that they're sweeping under the rug. Some of them, they saying that they killed, some people got killed, but then they say it's fake news. But that was happening back during the time of the fall of the pagan Roman Empire.
That's right.
The morale was just out the door.
And Rome was spreading itself too thin. With all these different war campaigns, they were basically like bankrupt.
Right.
Where they couldn't fund, so they devalued the value of the denarii, which was the Roman currency back then, and so they could try to pay the soldiers, and they were having all these war campaigns all over the place, and they were spreading themselves too thin. They weren't taking care of their aqueducts, right? Rome was known for, they built roads and they had aqueducts, and the infrastructure of Rome was crumbling, and they weren't maintaining their infrastructure. Like here in the United States, the infrastructure has been crumbling. You got an infrastructure that goes back to the fucking 40s and the 50s,
Yeah.
and it's crumbling, and they just keep throwing patches on it, patching over and over again.
Mhm.
They keep throwing patches on everything. Where New York finally redid the Tappan Zee Bridge, that was built back in the 50s. So now they redid it. It took them, they had to get up $10 billion to make that new bridge that they got there now.
And it's too late. It ain't gonna change nothing because you still got each and every week. You got these big major buildings, right? A big hole, whether it be a fucking from gas in New York City. Just the other day, a building collapsed. The Mossad sent the storm, jacked up a building in Connecticut. So all these structures are just, they outdated,
Right?
And it just collapsing. The way that they ran the heating system is not safe. So that's why you have a lot of these gas explosions in these big buildings. Electrical fires. So yeah, Babylon is falling. America is really cooked. All right, the bishop got the scripture there. I'll read it for you. Ecclesiastes 1:9. It said, "The thing that hath been, it is that which shall be, and that which is done is that which shall be done. And there is no new thing under the sun."
That's right. No new thing under the sun. And like the brother was speaking about the infrastructure, I could tell you about the infrastructure. Now, I'm not an electrician. I'm not a carpenter. I'm not an electrician. I'm not a carpenter. I'm not a mason. I'm not a stone mason. I'm not an iron worker. But when Hurricane Sandy hit and fucked up the East Coast up this way, I was going to Salem, Massachusetts, coming back to Long Island, Salem, Massachusetts, coming back to New York, coming back to Connecticut, and picking up circuit breakers. Now, these circuit breakers go back to the 40s and the 50s. That's the infrastructure here is old. So going back to each of these circuit breakers, for them to rebuild it, I was taking it to a company in Salem, Massachusetts, and it was along the water there, Salem, Massachusetts, right? Up 95 north in Boston, in Massachusetts. I'm dropping off 18 breakers and picking up 18 breakers to come back to go to a substation in Long Island somewhere and drop off the breakers, and then they're plugging them back into the system because the breakers were when the seawater level rose, that salt water and all that hit the breakers, and they had to shut down the stations. And you're talking like 6-7 feet of water. They were flooded, so they were totally underwater. So they set the breakers out to be rebuilt. Now, each of those breakers was costing anywhere from 25 to maybe 40 G's a breaker to be totally rebuilt. They break them down all the way and they rebuild them, repaint them, and they look like they're brand new. And they send them back and they plug them back into the system.
Yeah.
And then they had other breakers that were still working. Then they pull those breakers. When they put these new breakers in, they pull the other breakers out and send them out. So I'm taking like 18, 20 breakers at a time to go get redone.
Yeah, refurbished.
To refurbish.
Refurbish it.
And you at damn near, let's say at damn near 30, 40K a pop. Mm-hmm. Right? So it's old technology. The grid is old technology. Now, if they update the grid, that's going to cost a lot of fucking money for them to get the new updated shit.
How?
They can't.
How can you really update the grid?
You can't.
And on top of it, what they're doing is even destroying the grid even further.
Mm-hmm.
Now, remember, what was it? A few years ago, they started changing all these headlights throughout. I'm sure this is throughout the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They put all this LED to
all this stuff.
The strain on the grid.
Right.
Now they're still telling
less power.
There's still certain people that they have to turn their power on and start regulating shit. Mm-hmm. And now, and you got to keep an eye on it. Bishop Taj, you might know more. I keep seeing it, I see movies, but I ain't see much. I ain't a movie buff. I watch movies when I get a chance. I'm always kind of moving around. But now they said in Terminator 2, they were locking up Sarah O'Connor for protesting against the data centers in Terminator 2. That's why they was locking her up. So I got to go back.
I got to go back and watch it.
I got to watch it. But Terminator 2, they've been bringing out the point. They said she was protesting against the data centers for Skynet.
Right.
And they locked her up for that. So now, 2026, we see what it is, man. Yep. So, hey, is there anything on no level? Is there nothing new, man? And this is the diabolical plans of the elites. When you read in Micah, the book of Micah, chapter 2, verse 1, it tells you about this. Psalm 64. It's a lot of scriptures that tell. So we know, all right, the Lord gave us the spirit. He gave us the eyesight to see through this shit. And we see it. We see America like Yahweh Shai seen it. Yahweh Shai is the ultimate.
Yep.
Over 2,000 years ago, like how we seen it, he's seen it before it even came into play.
Yep.
He said, "Lo, I beheld Satan fall from heaven as lightning."
That's right.
That was over 2,000 years ago. Yahweh Shai spoke, and he was speaking about America and all the splendor that it has.
That's right.
So we're seeing it now. Micah chapter 2, verse 1. Woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it because it is in the power of their hand.
And that's Esau, Edom, the so-called white man.
Yeah.
And the iniquity that they devised on their bed, they've been working on this since May 1st, 1776, when the Bavarian faction of the Order of the Illuminati was adopted. Adam Weishaupt, who basically is a so-called Jew. And Bavaria, Germany, the Bavarian faction of the Illuminati was founded. And from that point on, they were working to take over the entire world. That's what they were doing. And the reason why you had the Russian Revolution was because one of Rothschild's letter carriers or whatever was carrying a communique, Illuminati communique. And the man, I believe from the story that I heard, either he was struck by lightning and died, and then a man received that letter and brought that to the attention of the Tsar of Russia at the time. I believe it was Tsar Nicholas. And then whatever they were working on back then was basically stopped. So Rothschild vowed to kill the Tsar and his family. So they were the ones that funded the Bolsheviks, which were so-called Jews that went into Russia and brought in communist atheism into Russia. And then you had what? World War I. That was to destroy the Tsarist government in Russia. Right?
Yeah, so they could establish some small hats.
So they could establish them small hats under the Bolsheviks. And when they did that in Russia, a lot of those, what they did was they took a lot of those, the Bolsheviks went into Russia and started destroying the dark icons that were there in Russia, that our people left there. Because Tsar Nicholas was a part of the black nobility of Russia that went back to Jake. That's what he was a part of. So the Bolsheviks was destroying those icons. They were taking them icons and they were sending them to Poland in different places so they couldn't be destroyed during the Russian Revolution when the Bolsheviks came in. And that was around 1917 when the Bolsheviks came in and they started destroying the dark art. And then they finally took over. They brought in communist atheism. That was World War I. That was an Illuminati production right there.
Oh, yeah.
That's what that was. Then you had World War II, where they used Hitler. Hitler is basically a Rothschild. I believe his father, his grandfather on his I believe on his mother's side, Schicklgruber, his grandfather was Solomon Rothschild. Solomon Rothschild, back then, you look him up, he was known for raping all types of women back at that time. And Anna Marie Schicklgruber was one of the maids that was in Solomon Rothschild's castle, basically raped by Solomon Rothschild, and then she was sent back to her home in Austria. She gave birth, right, to his father. I forget his father's name. Schicklgruber. Elio Schicklgruber was Hitler's father, who fathered Adolf Schicklgruber, or Adolf Schicklgruber, however you pronounce it. I say tomato, you say tomato. So the Rothschilds used him because he's one of their descendants, but they kept him under the name Schicklgruber. And they used him for World War II, because World War II was about them using military might to take over the world. And it was basically a trial run for what they're doing right now. It was a trial run. So they knew that if they came in with force, that people were going to rebel and fight back. So then they came up with a different tactic, which was what? I'll give you an example. There was a movie that came out. What was that? Was that 2005, 2006? Batman Begins, when Ra's al Ghul was breaking down to Bruce Wayne about, we've tried other ways. We've loaded ships with plague rats. He was talking about the bubonic and pneumonic plague. Then he said we came up with another idea: finance, control the finance.
Right.
And that's what the New World Order people have been doing, has been taking control of all the finances of all the nations, putting the nations in debt, and giving the nations more credit, knowing that they'll never be able to pay them back. So that way they can send their economic hitmen into that country. If you don't want to play ball with them, they send the economic hitmen into your country and cause a coup, take you down, and they put in the puppets that they need so they can get whatever resources they need to get out of that land or whatever control system they want to impose there. And that's it. And that's how they work. And the next scripture, the next one is going to go into that. Micah 2:2, and they covet fields and take them by violence, and houses and take them away. So they oppress a man and his house, even a man and his heritage. And guess what? You're doing that. You did that to us, but you're doing it to your own people.
To their own kind.
Right now, you got white farmers that are crying at the fact that the government is not giving them. The government's not giving them no more allotments, because the government every year was giving these different white farmers in America welfare money. Since the Homestead Act, and that was that 1862? Since the Homestead Act, they said, look, come out here to America and claim, you could claim 160 acres. And then they set up farming colleges to teach them how to farm the land. They gave them low interest rate loans so they can get
basically free money.
So they can get basically all they can get the tractors and the utilities, the seeds and everything that they need to mechanize the farm and to be able to plant and all that. So every year they would get allotments, basically welfare money from the government for them to run their farms, and they didn't have to pay that money back. It basically get grants. So the government during COVID stopped giving them those grants. And even to this part right now they're bankrupting. All the farmers are being bankrupted, and Bill Gates and BlackRock are the biggest farmland owners in the United States. They own damn near all the farmland in the United States right now. That's what the scripture means. And they covet fields. They take them by violence and houses, and they take them away. So they oppress a man and his house, even a man and his heritage, right? So, of course, you did that to us, but you're doing it to your own so-called white people. They are crying. And then on top of that, now you pass this immigration thing where you're stopping them from allowing people from Central and South America and Mexico to come up and work on the farms for goddamn $11 an hour in fucking 90-degree heat. And you think that when you sent them back over the border, you thinking Negroes was gonna come out there and work in your fucking fields. Are you out of your goddamn rabbit ass mind? Jake ain't going out there to work in no goddamn fields for you crackers. These crackers, they really expected Jake was gonna come and work in their field.
Oh yeah, they dumb as fuck, and that's why there's a civil war on stupidity too.
Yeah,
because a lot of these Edomites are just dumb as fuck.
Yep.
And again, they were sold out too by the bankers.
Yep.
Because and the other thing too, because Jake, and I was gonna say, but I guess I am gonna say it. Jake, Jake already had farmers and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
How you think they had affluent towns and cities without no financing, without no being able to get these loans that these other crackers was getting, man?
Yep.
The whole system was rigged from the fucking jump.
That's
right.
right.
It was against us because why? These are our enemies, man. Look at it. You see what the scriptures say? They covet fields and take them by violence. Like the bishop said, you got to start with what they call now America, man. When they came here, they'd seen, oh shit, how we get it? Bring diseases. Let's kill, rob, and rape. That's what they did. All right? That's named the third chapter. Woe to the bloody city.
Mm-hmm.
That's speaking about here in America, what these devils done did. And they can't run away from it, man. That's why everything that is happening is basically coming back. We're in that time now.
That's right.
The Lord got us out here bringing up all this history of the wickedness of the so-called white man, which is Esau according to the Bible.
Because the scriptures say this in Leviticus 20:5. the Lord shall visit the iniquities of the fathers upon the children of them that hate him to the third and fourth generation.
Yeah.
So you same crackers that were dogging us the hell out, let's say 100 years ago, that would take us back to the time of the Tulsa riots, right? That would take us to the time of the Tulsa riots, to the time of when Jack Johnson was heavyweight champ, and you went after him. You created a law that you just used against Puffy called the Mann Act. You put that on the books to stop Jack Johnson from being heavyweight champion because you couldn't beat him in the ring. So you had to create a law, and the law is still on the books. It's called the Mann Act, which is if you take a woman over state lines and you have sex with her. Well, people violate that every day. You violate the Mann Act.
Yeah.
You so-called white people, you violate the Mann Act. Your top senators, governors, politicians, they go across state lines and be having sex with all kind of different women across state. They bring in women with them. They got women meeting them there. So they violate the Mann Act every day.
The real Man Act.
Yeah, the Man Act.
They start fucking going across, getting little kids too.
Yeah, the booty bandit act.
Mambala. It should be a Mambala act.
Yep.
So it says, verse 2, they covet fields and take them by violence, and houses and take them away, so they oppress a man in his house, even a man in his heritage. And this whole mortgage situation is just designed for that.
That's right.
All right. So that they know that you 30-year fucking paying on a house. That's why you got people coming from the islands like, man, listen, I'm gonna get some money. Because when in Puerto Rico or certain places, when you buy
the land,
house,
it's your land.
It's you gotta pay sometimes, some places you gotta pay whatever, but nobody can take that house from you. Here in America, and everybody, oh yeah, we got it so good. No, you don't.
No.
You don't own nothing here.
You never own nothing.
Because
you don't have the allodial title. You never own it. Okay, you finish paying that 30-year mortgage, stop paying the taxes every quarter.
Right.
And they'll let it build up. They ain't gonna come and get you after a year or two. They're gonna let that shit build up to 40, 50, 60,000, 20,000, 30,000. Then they're gonna put what you call it, a warrant, a tax warrant on you. Yeah. And now you got to pay all that money by this day. If not, the house is gonna get auctioned off. After you done paid for 30 years, you paid that 30-year mortgage, and during that 30 years, the first 15 years you was paying interest. You didn't start paying on that house until year 16. And let's just say your health goes bad in year 20. So you actually been paying on the house for 5 years.
Wow.
So for 15 years, you was paying the interest, which basically, if you get a $300,000 house,
if you ain't refinanced.
Right, and that's if you ain't refinanced. So if you get a house, a $300,000 house, when you finish paying for that house, you're gonna pay them about close to 900,000, which you're paying that for that house 3 times. You're paying for the house 3 times. That's how they do. They do the same thing with you when you go in and get a car. You go in to get a car, and the car is $37,000. By the time they add the finance charge on it, now it's 47, damn near 50,000.
Yeah.
And if it's a 6-year plan, for at least the first maybe 2 years, you're paying interest.
Right.
They're getting their interest first. Then after that, you're actually paying on the principal of the car. That's the game. That's the game. That's the game. That is the game. So in America, you don't never own anything. Right? You don't ever own anything. You're always paying rent.
Yeah.
You're always paying rent. So if you get a house, you're actually paying double rent because you got to pay the mortgage and you got to pay the taxes. So the way that they work the mortgage and they work the taxes in that mortgage for that 30 years. But then if the interest rate goes up, your mortgage might be $1,800 a month. And that includes the taxes. The interest rate go up. Now it goes up from $1,800 to $2,700 a month. Because the interest rate went up after 5-6 years. Now the interest rates go up. So now your shit goes up. But you be like, well, damn, I got a fixed interest rate.
Right.
That's what a fixed, even that happens to you with a fixed interest rate.
Because, you know what? And these people don't still see the white man as the devil. This whole is a trick system. And the devil came out. He said, you'll own nothing and be happy.
Yep. Klaus Schwab. He said, you will own nothing and you will be happy. And that's what it is. You will own nothing and you will be happy.
But see, the scriptures speak about it, you know. And again, at the end of the day, me and this bishop was talking earlier. Yahweh Shai is coming, man.
Yep.
You know, so things are gonna get worse, you know, and we see it, but really it's gonna get worse for Esau, man. You know, we're suffering, we're in hell already. All right, we're gonna go up. We're gonna go up. The Lord is gonna bring us up into the chariots. Lord willing, if we have that number, which all Israel is gonna be saved at the end of the day, but it's gonna be real troublesome or perilous for all those who are outside of the truth, who the Lord did not elect to get this knowledge. All right, but Yahweh Shai is coming, man. See, the thing is that everything has the Lord said he appointed the boundaries that no man can pass, right? So this devil, the Most High gave him a short space of time to rule, and he did all of this wickedness in this period of time. He basically did and destroyed the fucking earth, man.
Yep.
And the people and everything here, the air. So now, you know, which why the Yahweh Shai, we do have a lively hope. Yahweh Shai, man. The Lord promised these things, and we're gonna get it. We're gonna get. The Lord said we're gonna dance in the blood of our enemies.
Yep.
Right. The Lord's gonna give us the desire of our heart. Right. We're gonna get everything, man. The kingdom. Yahweh Shai said it is of the Father's good will or good pleasure to give you His kingdom, man. The Most High created us to rule. We're the true kings of the earth. So now we just got to go through this last bit of the dregs, man. And it's just about over. And the thing is, we got to remember we're in that time. See what's happening. And that's why you got to pay it. Yahweh Shai said what?
Watch as well as pray.
That's right. Watch as well as pray. You got to watch because this devil, we've been telling you about the MOTV. All right. Now we told you about the goddamn jab.
Yep.
But y'all ain't listen. Now you got niggas, Stephen A. Smith. I took 3 booster shots and I can't believe that I did it. Well, nigga, because you trust in the white man. Isaiah the 30th chapter, man. You trust in the fucking white man. And you'll argue us for the fucking white man.
That's
so
right.
Give you a little bit of fucking peanuts like the monkeys you are. Then you're going to argue against the men of the Lord. We warned you, man. You niggas out there following behind these fucking women. We warned you. You sitting up there following these false gods. We warned you.
Warned you.
You niggas going to take the chip anyway. Just so you could die. You ain't going to make it up out of here.
Just like you took the jab.
Just like you took the jab.
They're gonna put you in the thing. Well, you know, I took it because of my job. All right. Well,
the job ain't, I don't know what they told you. The jobs are being replaced daily, man.
By AI.
AI and robots and drones. They got robots making pizza, man. Okay. I don't know if you see them. They said they're Italian robots too. So
oh shoot.
They're making some fucking pizza, garlic knots and shit. They don't need you niggas, you know?
Nope.
They got shit, all these office jobs. These office jobs they never went back, right? These office buildings are abandoned. They're gonna be concentration camps, man. They don't need you niggas in the office no more. They told you why. Basically, they said you go to college, you ain't gonna have no job when you get out. An accountant, shit from the chat GPTs and the what's the other thing, Claude and all these other different. Man, listen, this devil, and it's really like the Terminator, man. You know,
that's
really
exactly what it is.
But Slocky, but you got a precept you just gonna bring out.
I'm looking for something. So
oh, okay.
I ain't finding it yet.
Yeah, man. Like man, the handwritings on the wall, it couldn't be no clearer, you know. And if you don't see it because you ain't meant to see it, man. You know, at the end of the day, a lot of these jakes are trying to make the best out of what's left.
Yep.
Instead of seeking the Lord. The scriptures say seek the Lord early, man, while he may be found. But y'all rather go seek some type of bread and circus, you know? It is Jake is sick as hell. They mourning the loss of so many people, but they're gonna sit there and party it away in Esau's society. As if that's gonna bring things back or bring, you know what I'm saying? They're not seeking the Lord, man. They're not. And the Lord is not in Islam. The Lord is not in Christianity. He's not in none of these religions. All right? But yet, y'all gonna look for the Lord when it's too late. Scripture says, seek ye the Lord while he may be found. There's going to come a time where the Lord is not going to be found. You know, and it's to the point when you got people, you know, they boast about the military, right? And the Navy fleet. They're fucking fighting, going crazy over there, man. And I believe it to be true, the truth, right? They said when a dude try to come and give them the bullshit speech, they start throwing bottles at the nigga. Now there's a Netflix movie called, I think it's called Ship, right? And it's a, you know, it's a dystopian type movie, but it's focused on a fleet of 200 something men on a fleet, and this is, you know, a big plague broke out and killed everybody, or not almost everybody, like 80% of the people. So they don't know who's alive, and they trying to stay away from the disease.
Right.
And so and they trying to stay away from Russia's, the people that survived from Russia. So they show you a lot of different things, right? And what they show you is how the morale broke down, and everybody wanted to defect because they were being lied to by the superiors.
Right. So
I said, you know, when I watched that, I said, that's the same shit going on in real life.
There shall be sedition among men.
So that's it. Second Ezra, that's 16, right? This should be sedition among men. You know, so we live in it. That's the time that we're living in, man. Second Ezra 15, Second Ezra 16th chapter. You know, Isaiah the 14th chapter, Isaiah 13th chapter, Revelation the 18th chapter, Revelation the 17th chapter, Revelation the 13th chapter, right? Luke the 20th. We're living in a time of prophecy, man. Habakkuk the 2nd chapter. I mean, we can go on. But the thing is, Second Corinthians, the 3rd chapter, if our gospel be hid,
is hid to them that are lost,
whom the God of this world have blinded their minds, you know, blinded their minds. So, you know, that's what it is. They just lost, man. You know, we speak wisdom, like the Apostle Paul said, to those that are perfect, which is the elect. The elect, they hear the word and amen, brother. Come, right? Because why? They see it. The Lord opened their eyes. And you got regular people seeing things, man. Like, you got Edomites in hell. And I say it a lot, but there's more so-called white people against the system than our people. When you go to like a lot of these different protests for the data centers and all the, you know, majority of it is Edomites.
Yeah, because they have that spirit of they believe in the Constitution. They believe in that America, the land of the free, home of the brave. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That they believe that shit. That this is the land of the free, the home of the slave. That's really what it is.
Gun. Exactly what it is. Actually, it's the 4th chapter of Shalak, and I always make that mistake.
Basically, the land of the Freemasons, the home of the slaves.
So, yeah.
That's what it is.
The land of the seed, home of the slaves.
That's 2 Corinthians 4:3. But if our gospel be hid, it is hid to them that are lost, in whom the God of this world hath blinded the minds of them which believe not, lest the light of the glorious gospel of Yahweh Shai, who is the image of Yahweh, should shine unto them.
Yeah.
And the ones that it's talking about Israelites that this gospel is hid to. It's not talking about you other nations. The gospel of the Lord was never given to you other nations.
Never.
It was never given to you Edomites. It was never given to you Hittites. It was never given to you Canaanites. It was never given to you Girgashites, Amorites. It was never given to you Elamites. Okay? It was never given to you Cushites. Because you got Cush thinking that the word of the Lord is dealing with them. The Lord ain't dealing with you goddamn Cushites. The Lord is gonna bring the pain to you too. Because who do you Cushites go back to? The ancient Babylonian Empire. That's who you go back to. The first Babylonian Empire. The Neo-Babylonian Empire that was taken over by the Assyrians. That was the Neo-Babylonian Empire. They took over those lands and they claimed that for themselves. They was following the garbage that you Cushites left behind. Because the land of Iraq, originally, that's the land where you were. where Babylon was located.
Babylon, yeah.
That's where Babylon was located.
Right.
So the Lord is going to give it to you too. You so-called Ethiopians, you ain't the people of the Lord. Ethiopia. Who the hell told you that? Where the hell you get that shit from? It don't make no motherfucking sense. The Lord is dealing with the chosen line of Shem. Ham is not a part of the chosen line of Shem. So here you come with replacement theology, trying to put yourself in there. Because you read the scripture about the Ethiopian eunuch that had received the word, the Ethiopian eunuch. That was an Israelite.
That's right.
That grew up in Ethiopia. So they called him the Ethiopian eunuch. Just like Uriah the Hittite. Uriah was not a Hittite. Uriah was an Israelite that grew up in the land of the Hittites. So he had the nickname Uriah the Hittite. That's what they call him, Uriah the Hittite. Yeah, but Uriah wasn't a Hittite.
Yeah,
that's like if you say the Notorious B.I.G., the Brooklynite. Buckshot Shorty, the Brooklynite.
Yeah.
Big Daddy Kane, the Brooklynite. Or if you say LL Cool J, the Queensite. If you you can say that. Or the New Yorker. LL Cool J, the New Yorker. Right? Or you say or you say what is it? Tretch. The Newarkite. Vinny, the Newarkite. KG, the Newarkite. Right? That's what it was talking about. An Israelite that grew up in those lands, so they identified him as that. But that's not what he was. He wasn't a Hamite. Those were Israelites that grew up in those different lands, so they just identified him by that land. But they're not actually. Uriah the Hittite was not a Hittite.
Because again, you have these people talk about, I'm a native New Yorker, right?
Right.
New Yorker.
That's what that is.
But for that to be true, you have to be a Dutch.
Right. That's because that name goes back to Dutch.
Yeah.
Right.
So that was just slang that they would say.
Yeah, I'm a native New Yorker.
Uriah the Hittite.
I'm a native New Englander. Right.
Right.
I'm a New Englander because we're in New England. They even got a part of in New York called the New England Thruway, which is part of it is the Cross Bronx, but the Cross Bronx becomes the New England Thruway. You're still on the same highway. They just now they're calling it the New England Thruway. When you get to a certain part in the Bronx, the highway changes from the Cross Bronx to the New England Thruway. But you're still in New York.
That's right.
So that's all that is. But you people are stupid. You people are stupid, man.
Stupid.
Yep. Stupid.
Yes. This one. Whatever.
I'm gonna read it again. It says, but if our gospel be hid, it is hid to them that are lost. And who are the ones that are lost? That's no wonder the scriptures say the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Because Israel is lost. The lost sheep of the house of Israel. Preach this word to the lost sheep of the house of Israel, and as ye go, saying, preach the kingdom of heaven is at hand. That's what we're supposed to go to. Right. The lost sheep of the house of Israel. Nobody else. In whom the God of this world have blinded the minds of them which believe not. They blinded the minds of you who believe not. Because when you go and try to do some research, if you do any research, which none of you don't really do no research, you're going to run into Renaissance art. You're running into Renaissance art, and then you're running into Roman Catholic Renaissance theology.
Right.
That's what you're running into. So that's where your belief system goes back to. Renaissance, you see the Renaissance art, and you see the Roman Catholic theology that's attached to it, and that's what you run into. You don't research anything else. Because the so-called white man, you call him European, but they're not European. They're Edomites. Their land is south of the land of Judah. Technically, the Caucasus Mountains, that's really not their home. That's a place that they was pushed into in the Middle Ages. Technically, the land that belongs to the so-called white man is Mount Petra. That's their land. Go look at Mount Petra. When you look at Mount Petra, all of the architecture in Mount Petra links to where? Greece. And then it links to Rome. And then to the United States.
Yeah. Yep.
because it's the same fucking building style, the ancient Edomite construction and building style. It's not Greco-Roman architecture, it's Edomite architecture.
Yeah.
Because those people, the Romans and the Greeks, the so-called Greeks, all go back to what? Mount Petra. So all of the government buildings and the state buildings that are built here in America look exactly like Mount Petra. Go look at Petra and look at the architectural build in Mount Petra. The brownstones that they have throughout Seattle, throughout Seattle, throughout New York, throughout what's it, San Francisco, DC, in Chicago, the brownstones look exactly like the buildings in Mount Petra that was built into the rock. Same exact architectural style. That's who these people are. That's their signature imprint throughout the world. That's who they are. They're the ancient biblical Edomites, and they are not Europeans. They went into Europe after the death of King Solomon, because prior to King Solomon, David and Joab was trying to kill every male in Edom. Yeah. So there was a group of Edomites that went down into Egypt under the Pharaoh of Egypt at that time and stayed there until the death of Solomon. Once Solomon was dead, he said to the Pharaoh, listen, he bid the Pharaoh that he can go back to his homeland. Then they went back to their homeland. And when they went back to Petra, what did they do? They wiggled their way up into a power spot among the Persians. That's where we get the book of Esther. And you go into the story of Mordecai and Esther, where Haman, the Agagite, which is a son of Amalek, he's an Amalekite. Haman, the Agagite, who is an Amalekite, tried to destroy Israel while they were under the Persians, because he got up into a high position up under the Persians, and he was going to use that position to destroy Israel. And it backfired on him, and he built gallows, and he ended up being hung on those gallows. So after that, the Agagites that were still left, what were they doing? The same thing how they got North America is the same way they did among the Persians. Because who was it that took down the Persians? It was the Medo-Persian Empire. Right. So the Medes was a part of that too, which the Medes is Japhet. So Esau, Edom usurped the Persians and the Medes in Europa, because it wasn't called Asia at the time. It was Europa. They usurped the Persians and the Medes, and then who's the one that smitten Darius? Alexander the Greek. Alexander the Greek is an Agagite. He's an Agagite, which brings him back to being what? Amalek. Amalek is the chief house of Esau. The scripture said Amalek is the first of the nations. So the Agagites were the ones that got up in there, and they wiggled their way up into positions of power. And then you're like roaches. You're like roaches, and you keep coming, just like when you came here to North America and you took this land from our foreparents here in North America, right? This brother is a Seminole Indian, right? The Seminole Indian Wars, right? Yantamo, Danada, Oco, right? You took this land from them because, like cockroaches, you kept coming here. You took lands, took more and more lands, and you kept breeding and coming in. You did the same thing to Japhet over there in Japhet's land. Then you assumed Japhet's identity, just like you're assuming Gad and Reuben's identity right now here in North America. You did the same thing back there, because when you took down the Medo-Persian Empire, you devils assumed the identity of the Japhites, which is Javan. Mm-hmm. The original Greeks go back to what? The Etruscans, the Minoans, and the Picts. The Picts were actually the ones that the Etruscans and the Picts were there in Rome, the area that was called Rome, and it was named Rome by them. You devils went in there and usurped them out of that land. That's why during the time of the Roman Empire, you had the Picts. They were having wars with a group of people known as the Picts. That was Japhet. They were trying to get their lands back from you. So you did to them, and then you assumed their identity, because Romulus and Remus, were Japhetic. So you took on the name Rome and said, now you cosplaying that you're the Romans. You in Greece under Javan, with your Japhet, then you started cosplaying that you're Japhet.
Yep.
You did the same thing in Australia with the Aborigines of Australia. You went in like the fucking virus that you are. You butchered, you murdered, you killed, you pushed them off the land and pushed them into the mountains. Now you assuming that you're Australians. You're down under now. Now you assume the identity of the Australians, the people in Australia that was there before you got there.
They were most likely gonna send some kangaroos over there to kick their ass.
Yeah, them Joeys are gonna fuck you up. And you got a lot of crocodiles over there, which are more aggressive than alligators. A lot of crocodiles, and there's a lot of great white sharks out there in the waters out there. That's the Pacific.
I think mostly poisonous animals.
Yeah, a lot of animals that can kill your ass. They got bats in Australia that are motherfucking 6 feet tall.
Vampire looking.
We seen some pictures of them.
Yeah.
6 feet tall. They got bats out there like 6 feet tall.
You got some nigga women out here that look like you.
Yeah. So this is what you did, and you did that same thing here in North America. You took down Gad and Reuben, and now you assume their identity. So now if you go to a powwow, you see some fucking pasty ass cracker over there trying to do the fancy dance and the traditional dance, fucking it all up, and talking about, yeah, I'm native, you know. My your great great granddaddy's native. You want to know why? Because the motherfucker paid $5 to the government agent to be put on the dolls rolls. You $5 Indians, that's what you are, $5 Indians. And you sitting there claiming that you're Native American Indians. You're cosplaying that you're Native American Indians, but you ain't nothing but the fucking devil that the Bible speaks of. That's how you got into these different lands where your ass is at right now.
Right.
And you're cosplaying that you're them people. And the ultimate cosplay is you cosplaying that you are Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. That's the ultimate cosplay. So you got the world believing like that goes Revelation the 20th chapter. That goes you got to get that. That's what this all is the culmination of. So now Revelation 20, it says, and I saw an angel come down from heaven having the key of the bottomless pit and the great chain in his hand. And he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years. And that was during the time in the Middle Ages where our foreparents had your ass subjugated. And during that time in the Middle Ages, what were you? You were the wild man.
Yeah.
That's who you were. The wild man.
Right. Everybody knew about you. Everybody
knew about you. The wild man. Another name they called you was the wood wolves, which is a term that means the wild man of the woods. That's you old funky snaggertooth ass.
Yeah.
Dingleberries on your ass having crackers. Because you ain't have no toilet paper.
Hey, it was recorded. Even Wolverine said that y'all stink. That's on
the records. Yeah. Even Marvel. Wolverine encountered a Khazar. And the first thing he said was, "You stink." You stink. Yeah, Wolverine encountered a Khazar. The wild man. He told him, "You stink." And then he whooped his ass.
Hey, that's a fact.
Yeah, that's a fact. Look it up. Wolverine meets Khazar.
Yep,
You'll see it. Look it up. Look it up. It's out there. Yeah, even Wolverine didn't like you, motherfuckers.
Hey, that's the truth. You some rotten bastards, man.
Yep.
Hey, Job the 30th chapter, man.
Yep. Job said he would have they that dwelleth in the clefts of the rock, who I would not have disdained to sit with the flocks of my dogs. Why? Because you would turn around and pop the dog.
Yeah, dog fuckers.
You devils are known for that.
Faggots.
There was this group of white people. Of course, I believe they were in the South somewhere, and they were arrested because they were having people pay them a fee to molest their children.
Wow.
And the white woman was in on it too, to molest their children, but also pop their dogs.
Shit.
So, and they got arrested. And indictments was thrown up against them because they
should have lynched them.
They were collecting a fee from people and allowing the people to molest their children. But then on top of that, rape their children and rape their animals.
And let
Their
me guess,
dogs.
They sent them to pedophile park.
Probably, but they got arrested. It was a ring that was going on for a while, and they finally busted it.
Disgusting.
But you know what? We're not hearing about this on the major news media. They ran the story, and you can look the story up. But how come the major news media is not covering it? How come they're not covering it? Because they want to. They're holding back anything that casts a bad shadow on. But it is not casting a bad shadow on you. This is who the fuck you people are. You're a bunch of nasty, freaky devils, is what you are. But let me get back to the scripture. And laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years, and cast him into the bottomless pit, and shut him up. That bottomless pit was Europe. And set a seal upon him, that he should deceive the nations no more, till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled. And after that, he must be loosed a little season. For what? To deceive the nations once more. So now, after that little season, well, here comes the Renaissance. Right? During the Renaissance, from the Renaissance up till now, what have you been doing? You have been deceiving the nations. And the biggest deception is what? The assumption that you call yourself the tribe of Levi. Right? Yehudi, Levi. That's what you're calling yourself. Yehuda, Levi, right? And Benjamin, right? That's who you're trying to say you are. Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. And you are nothing more than Edom. Matter of fact, you're Amalek. That's who you are. You're Adawam, Edom. You're Amalek. So now you're cosplaying the fact that you are Judah. You're cosplaying the fact that you are the Israelites. You hide all the information. Any information on any archaeological dig, you devils hide it. Because if you let that information come out, just here in North America, there have been so many Hebrew artifacts found here in North America that you basically started, you put them away and then you lied about them. Because it's like, how the hell why is there Paleo Hebrew over here in the Americas? The scriptures say this is the land where mankind never dwelt. So why are they finding Paleo Hebrew in Puerto Rico? Paleo Hebrew in the Dominican Republic, Paleo Hebrew in the Quito Mountains, right? That's on the western side of Peru, Mount Quito. Why are they finding Hebrew all through? Why is there Hebrew found in Tennessee, the Back Creek Stone? And when the archaeologists in the Smithsonian Institute is notorious for taking these artifacts and hiding them. And like the Back Creek Stone, they allow people to see it, but what they did was they photographed it. They photographed it upside down. So that way you couldn't make out the fact that it was Paleo Hebrew that says basically for the land of Judah on it, written in Paleo Hebrew. That's what it said on it. What about Los Lunas, Mexico? What about Los Lunas, Mexico? Paleo Hebrew in Los Lunas, Mexico. How'd that get there? How did all the Paleo Hebrew get there? But you're telling everybody that the 10 tribes went up into Europe, which is a fucking lie. The 10 tribes under the Assyrian captivity went through the Euphrates into the Indian Ocean and came into the Atlantic, and the currents took them up into South, Central, and North America and the Caribbean islands. The currents took them up there through there. During the time of Solomon's voyage, the voyage of Solomon's Great Navy was where? In the Mediterranean. So it's obvious that Solomon's Great Navy sailed through the Mediterranean into the Atlantic and came here to the Americas. The scripture said it took them every 3 years, Solomon rejoiced of the bounty. What was the bounty? Every 3 years, the bounty was they came here to North America, they cut down the trees, they grabbed all the things they need, turkeys, this and that, peacocks. They loaded the ships up, and then they would come back, hit that current. That current would bring them back to the Mediterranean. They come into the Mediterranean, the currents in the Mediterranean bring them all the way to Jerusalem. Bring them all the way in, they offload the bounty, and then ships will go back out. sailing back out, back and forth, back and forth. And those materials was used to what? Beautify Jerusalem. Now, on this side of the world, this is the land where mankind never dwelt. So the tribes knew the route to get over here because, first of all, that region over there, that was the known world. All of that was explored already. Whether it was Ham, Japheth, and the other nations, which those nations were here, was on those lands before us, and they explored them. Okay, fine. All right. Those routes was known back then. That's old information. I remember a KRS-One used to have a song. He used to be saying, nothing new, nothing new. Yes, we're saying nothing new, nothing new, nothing new. Yes, we're saying nothing new. Shunk, dum, da dum, da da dum, da dum, shunk, dum, da dum, da da dum. Right? Nothing new. That information is not new information. That's how the tribes came over here to the Americas. And you devils, you lie about it. And there have been many so-called white scholars who put the evidence out there that the people here in the Americas have to be of the 10 lost tribes.
Oh, yeah. You know.
And you know it. But that's why you cosplaying as so-called small hats, you little dreidel boys. You know, you little dreidel boys, you little matzah bitches. You little dreidel boys, you little matzah bitches. You sit there and you lie. You have all the money and the finances and you fund these different archaeological digs and you take that information and you suppress it and you hide it. Yeah. And you teach that bullshit that you teach in the public food system. Christopher Columbus discovered America. Christopher Columbus knew to come over here to the Americas because of the information that was already out there. That's how he knew. On top of that, the Roman Catholic Church, the Vatican, had maps of what? They had maps of over here. They had something called the famed Vinland maps. They had the Piri Reis maps. You had the Vikings that was sailing over this way back in 1070 AD. And they had mapped out, they had made maps of Canada and North America. And they was established, they had trade going back and forth with the Gadites. And those was Jakes. The Vikings was Jakes. The Norsemen, those was Jake. Those was Negroes. You cosplaying that you're them too. And that was Jake. Just like you're cosplaying that you're the Irish. The original Irish, do you know where the Irish are? Go back and check the history. The Irish are you Jamaicans. You Jamaicans, you Trinidadians, you Barbadians, you Antiguans. You're the Irish. You were banished from England, Ireland, Scotland, and Wales. You were banished from those areas. Oliver Cromwell, he had had the colony of Jamaica and Antigua, Martinique, and them different islands, and he sent you there. When you look up the history on the Jacobites followed King James. The Jacobites were expelled out of Wales, Scotland, Ireland, and England, and sent to Jamaica, Antigua, Martinique, and Trinidad.
There's icon images of it too, show you the Jakes.
So that's who you are. That's who the original Irish are. That's where you get the term Black Irish. And that's fitting. Because one thing about Benjamin, what are they known for? They have that temper, what you call the famous Irish temper. That's them. It's hot-headed. Benjamin is hot-headed like a motherfucker, man. Go suck your mother, pussy clot boy. Suck your mother. They ready to go to war under any instance. They ready to fucking go to war. Blood fire them, fire, blood fire them. That's who the Irish are.
Angry man.
Angry man. That's them. That's who the Irish are. So again, it says, and he laid hold on that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years, and cast him into the bottomless pit, and shut him up, and set a seal upon him that he should deceive the nations no more till the 1,000 years were fulfilled. After that, he must be loose a little season. Period. That's what that's talking about. So the ending of that little season is right now. We're at the end of that. And these devils are going to fight like hell. They're going to fight like hell to keep their kingdom. Because they don't want to see Yahweh Shai. They don't want to see Yahweh Shai.
Esau's a sore loser.
Yeah, Esau, he's a sore loser. That's why it says what it says here in Revelation, the 12th chapter. It says, and there appeared another wonder. I'm going to start at verse 3. I'll start at 1. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. That woman, it's a metaphor talking about the nation of Israel. Because the Most High always speaks about the nation of Israel as being his woman, that he's married unto us. And we committed adultery by dealing with other gods. We've committed fornication, which is spiritual adultery, worshiping other gods. That's why I said there was a woman with a crown of 12 stars on her head. And she, being with child, cried, travailing in birth and pain to be delivered, because during that time, Herod, the snake, they call him Herod the Great, but he was Herod the snake. He put out a decree that all the boys that were 2 years old and younger was to be killed. So Israel was catching hell during that time. People coming up in your house and looking for your sons and killing and executing your sons right in your face. It was done. The same thing was done with Pharaoh during the time of Moses. That's why his sister Miriam put him on the raft on the Nile, and she followed him down the Nile. And then the Pharaoh's daughter retrieved him out of the river. She called him Masha, which means he was drawn forth out of the water. So she called him Moses, Masha. And he lived as the Pharaoh's son until the Most High called for him. So he was spared of that death. And his own mother and his sister raised him. So he knew for the whole time that he was an Israelite. He was raised by his own mama and his sister. Because they were the if you want to say midwives or the midwives of Pharaoh's daughter. So he was raised by his own mama and his sister. So he knew he was an Israelite. So during that time, they were killing all the babies. That's why the angel told Joseph to take his woman, and flee into Egypt. Now, when the angel told Joseph to go flee into Egypt, why? Because in Egypt you had the Alexandrian Jews that were there from. Why were they there? They were there from the Greek occupation. When the Greeks were in power before the Romans came to power, you still had the Alexandrian Jews in Egypt at the time. So that's who the Lord went amongst. He went amongst the Alexandrian Jews. And when Herod had died, then he came back. It says, Revelation 12:4, and his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven. So out of that, the stars of heaven is the 12 tribes. So the third part of the stars of heaven was the tribe of Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. Because at that time of the Roman Empire, the 10 tribes already came here to the Americas. They was already over here. So you had Judah, Benjamin, and Levi that was still there in Jerusalem and Bethlehem and Galilee and all of them different areas. Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. So it said, and his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven and did cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born. Going back to when Herod put the decree to kill all the boys 2 years old and younger. And she brought forth a man-child who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron, and her child was caught up unto Yahweh and to his throne. That was Yahweh Shai. And that was what? Acts the 1st chapter. Right? When the Lord was taken up and the disciples said, the angel told the disciples, listen, he's going to return back in the clouds. In Acts the 1st chapter, the Lord was taken up and the angel told him, look, the Lord is going to return back in the clouds. He's going to return back with the clouds, the chariots. That's what it was talking about. And she brought forth the man-child who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron, and her child was caught up to Yahweh and to his throne. And the woman fled into the wilderness. We ran into what? We fled into Africa. And the woman fled into the wilderness where she hath a place prepared of Yahweh, that they should feed her 1,203 days. That place that was prepared for her was what? America. We came over here to America. We basically came on cargo slave ships. And from that time up until now, even though we went through rigorous bondage, we were fed. This is the place prepared that they should feed her 1,203 score days. 1,203 score days. We were fed. Now you notice they're starting to cut off all these entitlements and everything now. All these entitlements that were given to, that the nigger woman received and that Jake received, they're cutting all these entitlements off now. Because the time of the woman being fed by the serpent in the place that was prepared, that time is over with now. So that's why all this austerity is coming in. Revelations 12:7. And there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels, and we're coming to that right now. That didn't happen back then. That war in heaven that is speaking about is going to happen now in this day and time. Now, there were movies that were made about this, like ID4. That's what it was talking about. And there was war in heaven. Esau sent his planes, his helicopters, his Tomahawks, the Apache helicopter, their F-16 fighters and all that to fight against Michael and the angels, and got miserably destroyed. This is prophecy. This hasn't happened yet. They made movies about that. War of the Worlds. Orson Welles made that movie, War of the Worlds. That's what it was talking. That's really what the movie is dealing with. The second coming of Yahweh Shai. And Michael and the angels fighting against Esau, who is the devil, the physical manifestation of the spiritual demon Satan here on earth. And his angels represent his armies, the people that are joined unto him. There was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon and fought in his angels, which is the so-called white man, and prevailed. And the dragon and his angels prevailed not. Neither was their place found anymore in heaven, meaning his rulership was taken from him, because heaven represents rulership. So the white man's heaven is the black man's hell. Just to give you, so let me put it like this. The white man's heaven is the Israelite man's hell. And that's what it is. And that's why the scriptures say, and the great dragon was cast out. That old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceived the whole world, he was cast out into the earth, and his angels was cast out with him. And I heard a loud voice in heaven saying, now has come salvation and strength and the kingdom of Yahweh and the power of his anointed, for the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our power day and night. These devils, their council of witches, they got witches that actually call on the name Yahweh and say, see, look at what Israel's doing. Accept us. Give the birthright to us. The accuser of our brethren is cast down. That's Esau, Edom. And it says, and they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, and they loved not their lives unto death. Then it says, therefore rejoice ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe unto the inhabitants of the earth and the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. And that's where we're at right now. They're coming down with great wrath. That's this austerity. That's them bringing in the new world order. That's them bringing in the RFID microchip. The devil shall come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. That's why they're cutting all these different social programs off. They're controlling and restricting the water supply. They're controlling and restricting the food. They even got a point where they want to make us pay for air, for breathing out carbon dioxide, which carbon dioxide is a part of the ecosystem. You breathe out carbon dioxide, and the plants take in the carbon dioxide and turn that into oxygen. You take the oxygen and you breathe out carbon dioxide. So it's an ecosystem. These devils have something they call a carbon print that they want to charge us for breathing right now. That's where we're at. So the devil shall come down unto you having great wrath, because he know that he hath but a short time. And when the dragon saw that he was cast unto the earth, meaning his skirt was pulled up, he was revealed, he persecuted the woman which brought forth the man child. The woman representing the nation of Israel, which brought forth the man child, which is Yahushua. He persecuted the woman which brought forth the man child. So now it's going back into what? It's going back into 70 AD again. So Revelation, the 28th chapter, is jumping from the Middle Ages to now. Then it's jumping back to 70 AD again. That's why people can't understand this. And the Lord had it written like that for a reason, because he didn't want you mother effers to get it. He hath not revealed these things unto the wise and the prudent, but he hath revealed them unto babes. So it says, therefore rejoice ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come unto you having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. And when the dragon saw that he was cast to the earth, he persecuted the woman which brought forth the man child. And to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness. And that's when we flew into where? Africa, right? Into her place, America, where she is nourished for a time and a half time from the face of the serpent. That 350 years. We were nourished for a times and a half of times. And the serpent cast out of his mouth water as a flood after the woman, that he might cause her to be carried away of the flood, the lies that the serpent cast out. And the scriptures tell you, and the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened her mouth and swallowed up all the flood which the dragon cast out of his mouth. And that's going into what? All the archaeology. The archaeology that the earth has put forth is swallowing up the flood that the serpent put out against the woman. That flood is the lies. Renaissance. The Renaissance time, where they basically replaced Jake's face with their face. That's why it says in Job 9:24, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covered the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? That's you, the so-called white man. That's who he's talking about. And Revelation 12:17. And the dragon was wroth with the woman, and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keepeth the commandments of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, and have the testimony of Yahushai. So with that, I'm going to end it there, Revelation 12:17. And I hope that you were edified. And Yahweh Yahushai Abba Ratazah willing, tune in to the next live stream. And I hope that you learned something out of this. So I'm going to give all honor, praise, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Kodash. And I'm going to say Shalom.